So, when did counseling stop being about problem solving? Well, not anymore. Introducing solution-focused counseling with the Unlicensed Counselor. And now, here's your host, Steve Moak.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of The Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor, and as always, so grateful to be here. It is a slightly overcast day out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I don't know if it's going to rain or not, but we always love a little rain out here in the desert. It's always nice. It's really pretty, actually, when it rains out here, too. It's just one of those things. I know most places don't like rain, but we always enjoy it out here in the desert. But just a beautiful time of year, so happy. I know people think of gratitude a lot when it comes to Thanksgiving, but just family, food, good weather, just happy time out here, and hopefully it is wherever you're listening as well, too. So excited to kind of talk about a topic this morning that I had actually game planned all week for a different topic that we'll touch on next week during Thanksgiving. No rest for this podcaster over the Thanksgiving holiday. But was at a presentation this morning of a gentleman named Dr. Bruce Perry. I'm actually going to put his book up if anybody actually watches online. I know most people just listen. The book's called What Happened to You? Conversations on Trauma, Resilience, and Healing. And it's Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey, actually, as well, too. So maybe you might have heard of him through Oprah's book club, #1 New York Times best-selling author. Spoke to a group of about 600 people. And actually, and this isn't, how it came together was through an organization called Not My Kid. Not My Kid is a nonprofit based here in the Valley. It's actually an organization that I helped launch with my parents, another gentleman named Dr. Mark Rohde in 1999-2000. No, it is not a paternity test type of organization or something you'd see on Maury Povich. It's actually around really my family's story and my drug and alcohol use going through high school. Now, we're not going to talk the podcast today on what Not My Kid is, but a tremendous organization. It was just about how, we had all these great things going as a family, but I really had this double life, and they never really thought that their son would have drug or alcohol issues. So it was kind of that Not My Kid, really a theme of denial. Not My Kid does tremendous work here in the Valley. I'm proud to be a part of that. And in fact, today they said in the 24 years that they've been doing this now, they've reached over 3 million kids with their story. But they also don't just do drug and alcohol prevention. They do cyberbullying. They do suicide. They actually have a treatment program now. So what started as me kind of sharing my story across the state to kind of elementary, middle, and high school students and parents has now turned into a powerhouse of a nonprofit here in the Valley. And what they did is they bring in they have these events where they bring in speakers, and the fall speaker was this Dr. Bruce Perry. So he came in and kind of shared a little bit. And I'm not going to paraphrase his talk today. It will do it no justice. But read the book, What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry. But it did get me thinking. So I was at the event this morning, and he talked a lot about connection. And I do want to dive into connection and why connection is kind of so important to a healthy life. So that'll really be the topic that I want to dig into today on the Unlicensed Counselor. But before we get into that, I want to say a big thank you, as always, and so grateful to our sponsors for continuing to support the show. And first and foremost, ShareTech. Look, if you need a drug or alcohol screen, this is the test to be using. At the event this morning, there were some of the leading treatment centers, not only in the state but in the country, represented in that audience, and some of the clinicians there that I actually chatted with as well, too, use the ShareTech drug and alcohol screen as well. They test for the most substances out of any screen. There's a really a common thing that's actually legal to be purchased called Kratom that many people are abusing now and can get addicted to very easily. It's like a synthetic opioid, really. The ShareTech test detects that as well, too, because look, when people are dealing with drug and alcohol issues and they know that they're going to be getting drug and alcohol tested, they'll actually look for substances that are not on the testing menu. And Kratom is one of those things that is not on many of the testing menus as well, too, so they'll kind of circumvent. Also, red flag, you might have a drug or alcohol issue if you're looking for drugs just to continue to use. That maybe isn't even your drug of choice. But I digress. Look, go to ShareTech, Google them. You're going to find the ability to purchase that test, ship it right to your front door, use the same test that all the leading treatment centers and outpatient programs do across the country. And as always, my favorite fun sponsor, our friends at EasySheets.club. Go to EasySheets.club, sign up for our subscription bedding service. Look, you can go in, you can find new sheets, new color, new style, new fabric, get them professionally cleaned and pressed. It's that pressed part that really makes the difference in the fun part of this service as well. We're going to ship it right to your front door. Packages start at $50. Go to EasySheets.club. You're going to like it. Whoever's sleeping next to you are going to appreciate it as well, too. And then a quick plug for my nonprofit as well. Go to the StopStartsHere.org. We are focused on just one thing and one thing only, that is youth drug abuse prevention. We are really doing bold, edgy youth drug prevention messaging. You can follow us at Hard Stop Official. Think of this is your brain on drugs for kind of 2024 meets social media. That's where we're going. So anyways, just a lot of fun, good stuff going on in the behavioral health world. First off, this morning at this event, what was so neat to see, there was over 600. This was at the Fairmont Princess, is a huge, really nice, fancy resort here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Sold out event. So there's 600 plus people in the room that are just concerned and care about these topics, about their community, about the kids, about all these really important, pressing topics. So, we talk about these things a lot, but then you get in a room with clinicians, physicians, nonprofits, treatment centers, government organizations, lobbyists. I mean, there is just schools, the education system. We had politicians that were there. There are so many people that know the importance of these topics and get together, and it really does kind of give you hope on what the future can bring. And it's kind of organizations like this and community activism and involvement that we talk a lot about, fentanyl numbers and how it's killing people and the suicide rates and how they continue to climb. And I mean, it's a lot of doom and gloom. And then you get together in a room with 600 other people and you go, you know what? There's a lot of good people out here still fighting this fight. And it gives you a lot of hope, right? And in the behavioral health world and the mental health world, it's tough. You get people that they come in, they work with you. Some get better, some don't get better, some pass away, some you never hear from again. It's just really hard, right? It's not necessarily like the medical where you come in with, you break your arm, they set it and they fixed it and you're on your way. In the mental health world, these challenges are just persistent and they change, and there's so many factors that contribute into these things as to why people either get better or don't get better or stay stuck or regress, right? So it was just really neat to be able to see it. But it got me thinking this morning around connection. And Dr. Perry talked a lot about connection as well, too. And again, this is not a paraphrasing of his presentation at all. He talked a lot about the brain and social factors and how all those things come together. But one of the topics that he did touch on quite a bit was around how connection, whether that's community involvement, your religious groups, social circles, peer groups, or just a loving relationship with mom, dad, husband, wife, grandparent, clerk, you name it, whoever that is, and how in the research, and he is a psychiatrist but does a ton of research and publishes research papers, and what he has seen time and time over again is how some of the best improvements and the outcomes that he's seen in people that he's worked with, and these, like, he'll go to Turkey when there's an earthquake and 50,000 people are killed, and he'll organize kind of a trauma response team to go meet with them. So he has seen these things on significant scale. And one of the things that he was saying is just that how, meaningful connection with somebody is where really some of the greatest improvement comes. He's like, look, we have in my clinic some of the best clinicians in the world, and we treat people and we measure things. And he's like, we do great work, but what we've also found is that some of the best improvement comes when they're driving to the clinic with their grandmother and they're just listening or having a conversation around really what's going on in their world. And he said, all of this improvement doesn't necessarily have to happen in the hour that you're sitting in a clinician's office. It could be the time spent at a park. It could be just, sitting down with your elders and kind of listening to the wisdom that they've maybe accumulated over the point in time. And he did a great job of kind of saying that there's improvement that happens in these kind of moments and seconds and minutes where really people start to improve, and that having more of those minutes and those important times together is where this improvement happens over the long haul. not just sitting in a clinician's office as well, too. So, what I want to talk about and how I'm going to break it down, again, being the unlicensed counselor, I just like to, again, break it into bite-sized pieces. So really, why connection is important for a healthy life. And I just have created, as I went through after this, I sat down and just wrote out an entire list of kind of things as to why, connection really is important. The number one is social support, right? Especially during those challenging times, having that network of social support is extremely important. And that social support is linked to better mental health as well, too. So, less isolation. And in fact, I think it was the Surgeon General for the United States just recently released a report kind of saying that we have an epidemic of loneliness, right? That isolation and loneliness is really impacting this country significantly. So even more reason to double down on why social support is important. And I'm not talking social media. I'm talking real people that you can have a coffee with, sit down over lunch with, have in your life when you go somewhere, that they are there and they're going to be tuned in to what you're listening and what's going on in your life as well, too. That is the number one thing that I had on my list. Next up is emotional well-being. So meaningful connections contribute to emotional well-being. So being able to kind of share your emotions and those experiences with someone else, and that is really going to foster some empathy in that connection. That's going to help you. It's going to help that other person. And as you have these bonds, those are really important things to kind of help foster some resiliency, which is another thing Dr. Perry talked about quite a bit in your life as well, too. And that leads to the next thing on the list, which is reduced stress. So positive social interactions reduce stress hormone production. Pretty straightforward. I don't think that's a big shocker to anyone. But having someone to talk to alleviates the stress and anxiety. I mean, that is what counseling is intended to be, right? That is what it's supposed to be. But as Dr. Perry, one of the leading clinicians in the world, said, it doesn't always have to be with the clinician. And in fact, he cited a shortage of clinicians, and he's like, look, there's never going to be enough clinicians. So we need to be able to go to a park and have social interactions, or go to your church, or go to your sports team, or go to your gym, or wherever it is, to be able to have someone to talk to, because that's going to help you deal with whatever stress and anxiety is going on in your world. Right, which again leads to just improved mental health. So strong connections lower the risk of depression, right? In fact, he even mapped out the number of connections that had a direct correlation to really the lowering the risk of depression as well, too. These interpersonal relationships enhance a sense of identity, right? So all of these things, as you're thinking about connections, not just that it's nice to be able to talk to someone, it's doing more, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, that's helped giving you that sense of identity, and again, lowering some of these things for stress and depression and anxiety. Now, it also ties directly into your physical health as well, too. So socially connected individuals adopt healthier lifestyles, right? I mean, I have, one of my biggest peer groups is now focused around my gym and my exercise routine, and not just on the lifting side. I've got a lot of the lifting side, and then I've got the basketball side, and then I've got, my yogi friends as well, too. So, and I'm living proof of this. I mean, my strong social ties to these different groups, I have seen a significant overall increase in my health, right? My previous associates used to be nightlife, drinking, drugging, those types of things, and I could see where the associations I made there and the lack of emphasis I placed on physical health, and now I can view both of those things side by side, and candidly, it's not even close, right? Which also leads to increased happiness, right? So this is why connection is so important. These meaningful connections contribute to happiness and life satisfaction. That's pretty straightforward, but I don't know if people kind of have that thought rise to the top of their head necessarily. So sharing positive experiences enhances enjoyment. And again, I'm not talking about this on social media. I am talking about a real connection with a real person who can give you a hug, give you a high five, shake your hand, buy you a coffee, hear you out, give you a big hug afterwards, cry with you if you need to, right? I mean, whatever that is, this needs to be done with another person, not just somebody that you're DMing or texting and things like that, right? So, back to the point of resilience as well, too. So this idea of enhanced resilience, these are social connections provide support during challenging times, right? When you're able to kind of have this connection and have this support system in place, your ability to take on whatever those challenging things that are going to come up is going to be significantly better. And look, whether they're disastrous things that are happening in your life or just maybe stressors that come along regularly, having someone or a group of people being able to kind of share these with is going to help you cope with these things better by becoming more resilient. So knowing others can and will foster strength and resilience. And I think it's important to think of being intentional on trying to make these connections, to build up these skills, especially building them up when maybe you're not in the middle of a crisis. And I've said this before as well, too. Have these things in place so that when and if challenging times will come, that you'll be able to go right to that network and not then have to feel like you have to create one as well, right? So next up, I had cognitive function. So social interactions stimulate cognitive function. So that connection, right, kicks your brain into going versus just sitting at home on your couch, pulling up your next Netflix show and watching through that next bender of a season. That mental stimulation through connection is vital for your brain health. So being able to have stimulating conversation and discuss things, and by the way, it's okay if you disagree on things as well too, maybe even better to kind of stimulate your brain and kind of get that cognitive function going through connecting with another person. This also creates a sense of belonging as well too. That connection creates that place where I want to be, that, hey, maybe if I don't show up, they're going to miss me, right? Like, I missed, because I went to this event this morning, I missed my hot yoga class. But it was well worth it, and I'm not saying they're going to miss me there, but I missed being there, and it's nice to be a regular somewhere as well, too. Look, I've spent my whole life being a regular on a bar stool. Now, my new life, I'm a regular, which I really enjoy, just like I enjoyed it then, but I'm in a regular and a much healthier place as well, too. And I do appreciate that sense of belonging. I do like to walk into my gym and everybody says, hey, how are you, Steve? How you doing? They say hi to my daughter. How you doing, Morgan? Having a great day and all that kind of stuff. That stuff, that sense of belonging and that sense of place is important to me. And I didn't really know that until you kind of experience it and you have it in place, and then you start to appreciate that being a part of something larger kind of contributes to this positive identity. And again, it doesn't have to be at a church. It could be at your kids' sports, and you get to know some of the other parents. It could be through the PTA. It could be through your faith or your church or whatever volunteer group. Just find a place where you can kind of become a regular at, and someone's going to know your name, and you're going to smile when you walk in the door, right? Now, this connection can also create, kind of some motivation and accountability as well, too. So, support and encouragement from others is really an important motivator in our life. So again, not being isolated, not having all those things in place can just leave you in that stuck and lonely place. When you have other people, they expect you to be there so that you can play basketball with or lift or go on a run together or do whatever it is you do. It keeps you going. I have my buddy who's my running partner. And again, we have the turkey trot coming up next week. And we've been doing this for years now, right? And and we have fun with it. I mean, we bust each other's chops. I mean, we're kind of dudes who just like to give each other a hard time. I could show you my stream of text, and it's hilarious. And I love it and wouldn't want it any other way. But again, it's that motivation and that accountability of like, maybe there's a day I just don't feel like getting out and doing the run. And he's texting me, I just wrapped up 9 miles. And I'm like, Jack, got it. Okay, let's kick it into gear. We can't just put this on cruise control and let it go. So having that in whatever way, shape, or form applies in your life, I think really is important. And the last thing I had just on that part of why connection is so healthy is longevity, right? I mean, we all would like to be here. I think most people would like to be here for as long as we can be, with good health and all, and be with our family and friends and all these things. And strong social connections are associated with a longer life. It's pretty simple when you think about it. Again, isolation versus connection. Connection, people who care for you, love, will be there, support you. Is it a guarantee that you're going to live longer? Absolutely not. But I will put all my chips on the side of having greater connections for me living out longer, and having that emotional and practical support really should contribute to, living a little bit longer in your life. So that was just my initial list of why connection is so important for a healthy life. Now, well, Steve, how do I build these, or how do I improve upon these connections that are out there in the world? So first off, it does take a little bit of effort, right? You got to be able to put yourself out there and want to have this in your life. Nobody's coming, or you're sitting there watching Netflix, knocking on your door, looking to be your connection, right? It just doesn't work like that. So there does have to be a little effort put forth into this, right? Now, here are some ways that you can improve these connections, right? And maybe you have some kind of, loose friendships, or some people you're getting to know, but maybe you'd like to have greater connection with that person for friends or, some other purpose. And I think number one would be active listening, right? So active listening and understanding, and then trying to genuinely respond so that you can maybe get past just that surface level stuff and start to make a connection that could be a little bit deeper as well, too. Next up, I had open communication as well, too. So I really, if you're trying to build these connections, let's focus on being honest and open. Let's not hide kind of what we're trying to say here, or be cagey, or not fully transparent. Let's have open and honest communication and see where that leads. And by the way, maybe it's going to lead to somewhere where that's not a connection for you. And that's okay as well, too. But it's putting yourself out there, which I think is really important part of this. Number 3, I had quality time. So spending quality time with important people. So actually making an effort, putting the time, getting calendars synced up, use calendar invites, going out for coffee, going axe throwing, doing whatever it is that you need to do. But find a way to spend some quality time with the important people in your life. How else? I mean, some of this stuff seems such like a no-brainer, but how are you going to build these connections, right? While you're doing that, number 4 is be present, right? Put the phone down. Be fully present during these moments. I've been really reading more articles on this, and there's actually even better than articles. I've seen pictures of just dads on their phones and kids on their tablets, and I'm just like, it hurts me. Have I done it? Yeah, I'm not perfect in that, but I do allow my daughter, some time on a tablet. I mean, she's running, she's at school, she's at sports, she's playing. I mean, she's allowed to, but just when you just drone on in your phone, it really, it's a peeve of mine is really what it is. So in the effort to build genuine and deeper connections, make sure that you are fully present during these moments of interaction. Turn it off, go to silent, right? And don't pull it out because you want to do, it's just a natural thing. If everybody wants to pull it out to look something or make a point, make a better point by putting it away and put it in your pocket. Next up on my list, I had the ability to express gratitude. So being able to regularly express gratitude for positive aspects of your life, and recognize and being able to see that in somebody else, and let them share what's going on in their life and the things that they're grateful for as well too. Again, building this connection, building something a little bit deeper, building your social network so that you can have this connection. These are the tools that you can try and use today to maybe build a little bit deeper with those friends. And by the way, next up is just initiate contact. So reach out and connect with people, right? I have friends, in the dating world and some other girlfriends and things like that, and they make jokes. They're like, oh, Mr. Right's just going to show up at the front door while I'm sitting there taking after my kids. And I'm like, it's not going to happen like this, folks. Like, we have to be able to go out and initiate some of these things as well, too. And I understand that that's maybe not in a lot of people's wiring, but to improve, to go deeper, to have these things, you've got to be able to take a little initiation and reach out to people and start to build these things. They're not just going to knock on your door and say, hey, let's connect, let's be friends, right? You got to do a little bit of work, right? And this involves going to social things, attend gatherings, events, parties, group activities. Look, we're coming into party season, right? We all get hit with invites and things, and sometimes your eyes may roll and you don't want to do things. And look, you got to say no to some things. Saying no to some things is healthy. But, pause. you also have to put effort into going out and putting yourself out there, building relationships, friendships. Some of the stuff that I found, some of the people at my daughter's preschool, it's like you meet them on day 1, 2 years ago, and you're like, oh boy, okay, I don't really know how that's not really my cup of tea. Fast forward 2 years later, you go to the events, you go to the parties, you go to the soccer games, you show up, and you're like, hey, these people are cool. Right? Like you gotta give them a little time, right? You gotta warm up to them. Try not to be so judgmental right out of the gate, right? Show up to these things, get to know people, and they're gonna probably hopefully do the same, and try not to judge so quickly that you can just kind of lop people off. Keep an open mind as you're walking into these events and things like that. And if that doesn't work, volunteer, right? Coach your kids, preschool soccer team, right? Go volunteer in other places at your church or whatever it is that you think is important, or the nonprofits for the organizations that you like to support. Again, take action, put yourself out there, find people, and these are going to be ways to start to build these connections. And these connections aren't going to happen overnight, right? I mean, some of my best friends were like, we just met in passing, or friends of friends and events, and all of a sudden we've gone to an event or two together and ended up saying hi or playing golf together. And now 7, 10, 15, it's like, wow, these are some of my friends. Like, these are people that I'm close with now, right? Now, here's another side of this on the connection front as well, too, is being able to apologize and forgive as well, too. This especially comes true when we have, family and those close kind of sometimes heated relationships as well, too. So be able to address conflicts promptly with sincere apologies. I do like the sincere part of that as well, too, not the Hollywood PR apology that's read by someone else and is probably done by either a publicist or ChatGPT or something like that, where it just sounds contrived and not fake. So make sure that you're addressing these conflicts promptly, apologize and forgive, and be able to move on. Now, next up, I also had being able to support others. So it's not always just about you and receiving things to kind of help build those connections. In fact, one of the best ways is being able to support others. And if they know that they can count on you to be supportive during these challenging or celebratory moments, what a great way to kind of build the bonds and take that connection really to a deeper level. Another thought I had, too, was around learning together, right? If you want to go to things where maybe you can engage in activities and learn something together, like coaching your kids' team. I mean, look, I don't know how to coach t-ball. I don't know if my daughter will play t-ball, but, maybe I want to go help coach her soccer team. In fact, she asked me to do that next year, so maybe I'll go do that. I don't know how to coach 3- and 4-year-old girls' soccer teams, but you know what? What the hell? And I'll probably end up better friends with the other dads who are getting out there to coach too, and we'll probably get a good laugh at it, would be my guess of what comes out of this. I'll report in about a year from now and let you know how that goes. Now, also understand and respect when you're getting to know people that you're going to be different. There's going to be differences, right? So be able to embrace and respect kind of the differences, the diversity within your circle, and again, not being too quick to judge right out of the gate, which I have been very guilty of in the past. I mean, you see something, you make a judgment call, and you kind of hold on to that. And I can't tell you how many times I've been proven wrong. So it's like, okay, how about not waiting to be proven wrong, and how about just withhold those judgments a little bit slower, right? So we're not just stuck onto those things, right? And the last thing I had on my list, as I do on all my lists, right, as you're getting to know someone or looking for connections, maybe you just need some professional help as well, too, right? Maybe you need some counseling that you can jump into this. You could always call the old unlicensed counselor here, and I'll be happy to share my 2 cents online or book some time with me. Always happy to chat with you. Or go to your counselor, therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, whoever it is, and be like, look, I'm struggling with connections, or I feel like I'm alone and just kind of navigating this world, or that the connections that I have seem to be shallow, or I don't follow through with them, or maybe I'm too afraid to take it to a deeper level to really kind of have people in my life that I could turn to when times get really tough. So, I made a lot of notes this morning because this speaker was just tremendous. Go, Dr. Bruce Perry. The book is called What Happened to You. Again, co-written with Oprah Winfrey as well, too. He was an outstanding speaker. Again, today's topic was not a paraphrasing of his presentation in any way, shape, or form, but it did get me thinking. One of his real points was around connection and how that helped foster resiliency. I'm sure you can go on YouTube and find some of his videos, and I encourage you to do so because it was really worth it. You know, the talk he gave was about an hour this morning, and I'd recommend it to anyone who just wants to learn more about this and how it's not all about sitting in your counselor or therapist's office to kind of build up these connections and being able to build resilience. It's really about some of these other ways and other areas and people in your life, specifically around the connections that you have. So really good stuff. Thought it was interesting. And as always, if I think it's interesting, I'm going to share it directly to your ears, and hopefully you may find it interesting as well too. And if you do, help us out. Like I always say, I saw the numbers. We continue to grow in the number of downloads and the number of followers. A big thank you to everybody who's doing that. But if you think this topic may be good, take this podcast, send it out to a friend. You never know, maybe it'll spark a conversation, and maybe you'll find a new connection as well too. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. Until next time, thank you very much.